Well, I made a mistake. During a break in this afternoon's narration, I watched 7 minutes and 5 seconds of some of the worst behavior I have ever seen. And I've been sitting in my studio for the last hour, staring into space, uh, trying to let the nausea subside. And it truly is nausea. My memory of U.S. presidents goes back to Lyndon Johnson when I was a child. I understand he could be a real tough guy in private conversations. I imagine all presidents could at one time or another. By the time I got old enough to understand what presidents do and what it means during the Nixon years, um, there were even tougher conversations, I'm sure. But I've never seen anything like what President Trump and Vice President Vance just did to Volodymyr Zelensky. Um, that's just not bad governmental behavior. That's bad human behavior. My dad's people were Ukrainian Jews, of course. That's problematic in a largely Christian country, but they were proudly Ukrainian nonetheless. Um, the little village where my ancestors were raised and lived is not much more than a couple of tire tracks from a Nazi half track now, but still, that's where our roots were. Anybody with an ounce of brains can see that Volodymyr Zelensky is not a perfect leader and that he has made mistakes, not a career politician by any means. Nonetheless, he is courageous, consistent, and untiring in his efforts to save his country. He has differences with his allies, including the United States, but he has not done anything, and the people of Ukraine have not done anything to deserve what the president and vice president inflicted on him today in a staged nightmare of an ambush. It is a cause for national shame. It is justification for the world community to excoriate us and hold us in deep and lasting contempt. There is no way out of this. Our representative to the world, the President of the United States, and his lapdog second thug failed us remarkably today. There is no overstating this. So I can't work for an hour. Big deal. I'll make it up. The Republic might not be able to work for a generation or more because of what these people have tried to do in the space of just 5 weeks. If I were Zelensky, I wouldn't even show up at the White House, let alone consider handing them over minerals. And I applaud him for having the dignity of self and the dignity of the people who rely on him to get up and walk the hell out of that office without signing so much as an autograph, let alone a treaty. That's courage for you. And it's not easy. The man knows that if his enemy succeeds, he will probably be publicly executed, and he has lived with this knowledge now for many, many years. And his people will be slaughtered in the street. And this narcissistic thug that we allowed into the Oval Office uses this as some kind of cage match of policy and theatrical politicizing. I can't stand for it. A little YouTube video or wherever I'm going to post this is not going to change anything. But I want you to know this. Until today, I was content with the notion that politics should not interfere with friendships or family relationships, and that unity is what we should be striving for. I'm afraid I've reached my limit with that. The horrors that the Trump administration has begun to visit upon our country should not be surprises to anybody who's been watching. We were warned out of his own mouth and from the mouth of experts that these sorts of things could happen, and they're not going to stop. So my point is this: if, in spite of all those warnings, and thinking more about running your business or your 401k, or the fact that Harris just didn't quite sit right with you, you facilitated this man getting in a position to do what he did to one of the most courageous figures of the 21st century, then you're complicit in this evil. You know who you are. I probably like a lot of you, but I can't have you in my life anymore. If you voted for Donald Trump, if you set things up so that today could happen, I need you out of my life, once and for all. You know who you are. I no longer need the distraction of trying to walk your ideological line, because I and all the right-thinking people left in the world are going to be too busy resisting this bullshit. You know who you are. Get the fuck out of my life. Slava Ukraini.